I never imagined my quiet night as a security guard would lead to a life-changing moment. I still hear the echoes of my heartbeat, the rhythm pounding like thunder in my chest as I stroll through the shadowy halls of the old warehouse. The flickering lights cast eerie shapes on the walls, playing tricks on my mind. Every creak of the floorboards sent chills racing down my spine. It felt like I was walking through a graveyard, each step a reminder of the heavy silence that surrounded me. My shift was supposed to be routine. Just me, my flashlight, and the dim glow of the emergency exit sign. But something shifted that night. A strange, magnetic force drew me deeper into the shadows. I could smell the stale air mixed with a hint of rust. My hands trembled, not just from the cold, but from the thrill of the unknown. As I rounded the corner, I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye, a flicker, a movement. I paused, breath hitching in my throat. Was I imagining things? I glanced down at my watch. Midnight. The hour when ghosts roam. Growing up, I often heard wild stories about this place, whispered legends of its haunted past. I shook my head, trying to dispel the fantasies that clouded my mind. My mother always warned me about urban myths. Yet, here I was, the guard against nothing, ready to confront my feelings of inadequacy and fear. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed behind me, a clang that shattered the eerie stillness. My heart raced. I turned, flashlight beam slicing through the darkness like a knife. I saw a rusted door slowly inching open. My breath caught in my throat. Was it the wind? Or something far more sinister? I took hesitant steps forward, the air thick with anticipation. My curiosity battled with my instincts. I couldn't look away. Then it happened. From the shadows, a figure emerged. My muscles tensed as I stumbled back. The silhouette was vague, shrouded in darkness, but there was something undeniably alive about it. I gripped my flashlight tighter, the beam shivering like my hands. The figure spoke, voice hushed, yet sharp enough to cut through the silence. Help me. A flood of emotions crashed over me: fear, compassion, urgency. Who was this person? Why were they here? My instincts screamed to run, to escape this strange predicament. But a flicker of hope ignited within me, weaving through my fear. I wasn't alone in this strange place anymore. The chilling touch of mystery wrapped around me as I took a step closer. In a moment, everything changed. A loud crash resonated again, and the ground trembled beneath us. The air grew thick with tension, my skin prickling with an otherworldly sensation. The figure turned to me, eyes wide and filled with desperation. They're coming. A scream pulled me back from the edge of sanity. I felt the icy grip of dread clutch my heart. As I stumbled backward, confusion swirled in my mind. Who was hunting this person? Why had I become entangled in something so dark and dangerous? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. I never imagined that the shadows of a forgotten warehouse would cradle such profound fears and unexpected truths. As I stumbled backward, the figure's eyes pierced through the darkness, a beacon of desperation that reverberated inside me. They're coming, echoed like a haunting mantra in the vast emptiness around us, threatening to swallow the fragile hope I had just found. The loud crash resonated once again, this time closer, a fierce reminder that time was slipping through my fingers. My mind raced. Who was hunting this person? Why was I now a part of this strange narrative unfolding in a place so steeped in silence and shadows? My instincts screamed to flee, yet a counterpart within me reached out, desperate not to abandon this stranger in their hour of need. Who's coming? I managed to whisper, my voice thick with urgency and tremors of fear. The figure stepped into the thin beam of my flashlight, revealing a face streaked with dirt and worry. A young woman, maybe in her early 20s. Her hair, dark and disheveled, framed her face as if shielding a truth she was not yet ready to share. Please, she breathed, each word a struggle, they'll find me if we don't leave. I can't go back. With that, her vulnerability struck a chord deep within me. In that moment, it was impossible to ignore the raging storm of emotions swirling between utter fear and my determination blended into one chaotic urgency. Distant footsteps echoed through the hall, a threat nearing its target. Adrenaline surged, compelling me forward. "Come with me," I urged, more of a command than a suggestion. We darted deeper into the warehouse, the flickering lights casting wild shadows against the rusted machinery that loomed like guardians of forgotten memories. As we ran, I could hear her heavy breaths mingling with my own, an unspoken understanding tying us together in this frantic escape. The remnants of my previous life as a security guard monotony, dull shifts were now a distant memory, eclipsed by a new reality. I was her only lifeline in this suffocating darkness. We reached a corner of the warehouse where an old office lay half buried under years of neglect. I pushed the door open, and it creaked like a whistle through the stillness, announcing our presence to unseen eyes. "Quick, inside," I urged, and as she slipped through the doorway, I felt that old, unnerving feeling clawed my gut, the sensation of being watched, of shadows lingering just beyond our vision. Inside the office, remnants of bureaucratic life lingered, dusty papers scattered like fallen leaves, remnants of a past long forgotten. The room smelled stale, yet it felt safe in the way that familiar places do, a shelter from impending tumult. We stood still for a moment, catching our breath, exchanging glances filled with questions and unspoken tales. Of footsteps grew louder outside, the sound creeping closer, accompanied by hushed voices, murmuring in low tones like a gathering storm. My heart pounded against my chest, the weight of the unknown pressing down upon me. "What happened? Why are they after you?" I dared to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Her gaze fell to the floor, her fingers trembling as they brushed against a breach in the old wooden desk. "They think I know something I overheard." Her voice quivered with barely restrained terror. "I didn't mean to get involved. I just wanted to escape my life back home." A sense of dread unfurled within me. What was her connection to whatever was closing in on us? Escape from what? I urged, the need to understand far more potent than the fear of what might come. She hesitated, closed her eyes as if replaying memories that refused to fade. "I was involved in something bad. A deal that went wrong. People got hurt. I can't go back. I can't face what they'll do to me." In a moment, the gravity of our circumstances dawned upon me. She was not just a frightened girl, she was a pawn in a game far too large for me to comprehend. The flickering lights overhead began to fade into a heavy darkness, underscoring her words. Yet amidst the overwhelming bleakness, something akin to camaraderie sparked between us. Suddenly, a blinding light pierced through the dusty window, and I froze, dread pooling in my gut. "They're here," she gasped, panic flashing across her face. "If I get caught, no." I interjected swiftly, the instinct to protect her overwhelming. I scanned the room for options, heart racing. The footsteps paused just outside the door, a moment of stillness hanging like a breath held too long. "What do we do?" Her voice quivered, filled with terror, and for a fleeting moment, I glimpsed in her eyes a flicker of something trust. "It'll find us a way. Just follow my lead," I reassured, but I could feel the weight of my own uncertainty pressing down harder than ever. The danger was far greater than I had anticipated. This night was spiraling far beyond my control. Then came the sound I dreaded, a loud thud, as if someone had kicked the warehouse door open, followed by shouts demanding for her. My heart raced as I realized our time was slipping away, and then, an unthinkable realization struck me like lightning. With the suddenness of a jolt, the confidence I felt wavered. I turned to her, the shadows now closing in from every side. "If you have a plan, you need to share it now," but the words hung heavy in our air, entangled in unspoken truths as a new fear wrapped around us both. She took a step closer, desperation igniting her resolve. "I can't go back alone." And at the edge of that terrible precipice between danger and hope, in that moment of shared vulnerability and uncertainty, I heard the door crash open behind us. The door slammed against the wall with a force that echoed through the dusty office, scattering some nearby papers like startled birds. I instinctively stepped in front of her, my body tensing as the intruder's silhouette framed in the harsh light from the warehouse. It was a man, muscles tensed, eyes burning with a fierce determination. Shadows danced across his face, twisting his features in a way that made him look more beast than human. "Where is she?" he growled, surveying the room with predatory intent. The air crackled with an intensity that felt like the calm before a stormy feet felt rooted to the ground as I grappled with fear and the desperate urge to protect this girl whom I barely knew. Her breath hitched behind me, and I became painfully aware that everything was now on my shoulders. I needed to buy us time, I needed to think. "You've got the wrong person." The words slipped out of my mouth, raw and shaky. "There's no one here but me." His gaze flicked to me, and in that moment, I felt the weight of scrutiny as if he were peeling away layers of my facade. "I'll ask again. Where is she?" I didn't back down. "Why do you want her? What did she do to you?" My own voice surprised me, laced with an edge I didn't know I possessed. I was a security guard, not a hero. I wasn't supposed to be caught in confrontations like this. The man stepped further into the room, dominating the small space with his presence, eyes flashing with a mixture of anger and desperation. "She's seen things, dangerous things. If she talks, people will die." Her eyes darted to mine, silently urging me to understand. What had she witnessed? How deep was she involved in whatever this was? Fear radiated from her, an energy that entwined with my own rising adrenaline. "Let her go. You can't just come in here demanding answers and threatening people." My heart raced painfully in my chest as I realized how foolish my defiance was. The guy chuckled darkly, and for a moment, the tension in the room shifted, morphing into something almost predatory. "You really don't want to make this harder than it has to be," he warned. Behind me, I could feel her trembling, the barely concealed panic rolling off her in waves. "Please, just go." Her voice was thin, breaking under the weight of our reality.no. "I can't let him take you," I declared, instinct driving me to position my body defensively. Did I really just say that? There was something primal stirring within me, a need to protect despite the consequences. I was suddenly acutely aware of the reckless gamble I had taken. Time seemed suspended, a taut wire between us. Just as the man stepped forward, the room erupted into chaos. A loud crash resonated outside, causing both of us to flinch. I took the opportunity to shove the desk toward the door, blocking the man's path. "Run!" I shouted, urgency pouring from every syllable. "Get to the back exit." The girl didn't hesitate, she darted past me, her small form moving with surprising agility. I could hear her feet against the wooden floor, pounding against the chance of freedom amidst the looming despair. In the dim light of the office, I could see the man's fury morph into a furious urgency. He lunged towards me, and I met his advance with my own grasp. I wasn't prepared to let him take her without a fight. My hands found purchase on his shirt, adrenaline fueling my movements as I pushed back with all my strength. "Let go of me!" he snarled, pushing against my shoulders. The struggle twisted us around the small space, the remnants of paperwork swirling like ghosts around us. Then, out of nowhere, there was a loud pop, the unmistakable sound of a gun being discharged. My heart dropped as the man jerked back, releasing me, a look of shock flashing across his face as he stumbled slightly. The world else became a blur. I turned to see a second figure emerging from the chaos outside. A woman, no, a girl, no older than 20, standing amidst the fray, her eyes wide and shining with a mix of concern and horror. She was pointing a gun at the man who had been threatening us. "Run!" she yelled, her voice fierce and unwavering. I didn't need any further encouragement. I turned on my heel, racing out of the office and into the shadows of the warehouse, every instinct screaming to keep moving, to protect the girl who had been caught up in this whirlwind of danger. Fear surged through me as I glanced back to see the man recovering from his shock. He would come for us, of that I was certain. But behind the fear, something flickered, a glimmer of hope among the chaos. The girl had saved me as much as I had intended to save her, an unexpected act of bravery in the face of our shared terror. We zigzagged through the vast expanse of the warehouse, ducking behind machinery and debris, our breaths heavy in the still air. Finally, we reached a wall at the far side, a dim exit illuminated only by the moonlight creeping in. I hesitated, my mind racing back to the reality of the threat we faced. Where are we going? She wasn't just scared now, she was bewildered, caught up in the whirlwind of decisions that were spiraling into confusion. And then, as I placed my hand on the door, the night filled with the new sound, voices, yelling, searching. Our time was running out, and with it, my grasp on certainty. But as I pushed the door open, a fleeting thought crossed my mind. The girl beside me had become not just a casualty of fate but a companion in this battle for survival, nurturing threads of trust that glimmered in the shadows between us. And yet, as I peered into the night beyond, a sinking realization weighed upon my heart. Perhaps the dangers that pursued her were not so distant from me after all. Her past loomed next to my own, intertwining paths that threatened to ensnare us both in a fate far darker than any we could fathom. "Let's go," I whispered, but even as the words left my mouth, I couldn't shake the dawning dread that a far greater challenge awaited us beyond that door, a truth that would shake the very foundations of our lives and challenge everything we thought we understood about survival and companionship. The outside air hit us like a cold shower as we burst through the door, the weight of uncertainty pressing on my shoulders. I could feel the urgency in the girl's movements, a shared instinct urging us to escape. But before we could step fully into the night, a new wave of panic washed over me. "Wait!" I hissed, instinctively pulling her back. The sounds of chaos still echoed inside the warehouse, but now the outside world revealed an equally threatening silence. The moonlight bathed everything in silver, but shadows twisted in the corners, leaving us exposed in the open. "What's wrong?" she gasped, her breath visible in the chill air, urgency blending with fear in her wide eyes. We need a plan." My voice trembled slightly as I surveyed the area, the fear creeping in like an unwelcome guest. I had always prided myself on keeping things orderly, predictable. Now, everything felt eerily uncertain. The girl pressed her lips together, trying to steady her own racing heart. "You think he's coming?" "Absolutely." I scanned the surroundings. There was a dark stretch of trees ahead, but I could see the faint glow of headlights approaching from the road. "We can't go that way. We need to find somewhere hidden." Without another word, I led her to a nearby cluster of parked trucks, their immense presence sheltering us from the watchful eyes of anyone passing by. As we crouched behind a tire, I felt her shiver slightly beside me. Without thinking, I draped my coat around her shoulders, my heart swelling with an unexpected tenderness amidst the panic. "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes shimmering with gratitude that momentarily pierced through the anxiety surrounding us. We held our breath, listening as the distant headlights flickered closer. The anxiety swelled in my chest. What had I gotten myself into? My role as a security guard had always felt safe, relegated to monitoring cameras and patrolling once an hour. Now I was hiding in the shadows, with a girl who was linked to an unexplained danger that suddenly felt all too real. "This is all my fault," she murmured, her hands wringing tightly in her lap. "What do you mean?" I asked, genuinely confused. "None of this was your doing," she shook her head, her gaze lost in the distance as if she could see the memories bleeding into the night. "I didn't want to get involved, but I stumbled into something dark, something I thought I could handle. I didn't want to tell anyone, but there are things I saw, secrets I uncovered," and now, a loud crash echoed from the warehouse, followed by frantic shots that resonated in the stillness of the night. I pulled her closer instinctively, trying to quell the chaos brewing in her mind. "You don't need to explain right now. We just need to stay focused." She turned to me, her eyes shimmering, caught between fear and a flicker of hope. "I can't go back. They'll find me now." "I won't let that happen," I insisted, my heart heavy but resolute. "But we need to figure out where to go next." Just then, a figure appeared in the distance, moving swiftly among the shadows. My body coiled instinctively, ready to flee if necessary. But as the figure drew closer, I gasped in recognition. "Danny?" My heart raced, a mixture of relief and disbelief flooding through me. It was my friend, Danny, another guard from the precinct. He was solid, reliable. Maybe he could help us navigate this unfolding nightmare. "Hey!" he called out, his voice strained but determined as he approached. "What the hell happened?" "I heard gunfire, Danny. We need to get out of here," I urged, my voice barely above a whisper. "There's a man, and he's dangerous." His expression shifted from confusion to concern. "Let's move, then. My car is nearby." We started to rise from our hiding place when I felt a cold shiver down my spine. I turned just in time to catch a glimmer of movement, a dark figure appearing from the shadows of the warehouse, his silhouette unmistakable. The man from before, eyes wild and determined, scanning his surroundings. "Run!" Danny shouted as he lunged toward us, extending a hand to the girl beside me. We took off, adrenaline surging through my veins as we dashed toward Danny's car, every instinct urging us to survive. She was right on my heels, but I could feel her slowing. The reality of her danger weighed heavily on us both. As we reached the car, Danny's urgency was palpable. "Get in!" he shouted, his voice tinged with urgency. But just as we reached for the handles, a piercing scream shattered the air, a voice I recognized all too well. No. I turned, dread pooling in my stomach, to see a woman being dragged from the shadows, a woman who mirrored the girl beside me. "Mom!" the girl screamed, her voice wrenching with anguish. I glanced at Danny, who was already frantically unlocking the doors, but my heart urged me to stay, to fight. The man's eyes were fixed on my newfound companion, transcending merely the instinct to survive. "Get in the car!" Danny's voice sliced through my fog of disbelief, but I was frozen as the reality crystallized before me. The past was catching up to us at an alarming pace, a dark swirl of fate intertwining our lives in ways I could never have imagined. With every heartbeat, the approach of danger lurked closer, the offered safety of the car drowning in a turbulent sea of what I could no longer unsee. But as the girl fell against me, her tears mingling with the panic clawing at my chest, I felt the weight of the decision before me. One life might save the other, but I couldn't allow fear to dictate our next move. And just in that moment, standing amidst the choice between escape and sacrifice, I felt the flickering embers of hope fading, threatened by an encroaching darkness I could no longer deny. "Hold on!" I shouted, my voice trembling but resolute. "We're going in, together." But as I prepared to sprint toward the screaming voice, another thought struck hard in my chest. Maybe I was about to lose everything. The world blurred around me as we rushed toward the chaos unfolding just beyond the veil of shadows. My heart pounded in my ears, and every ounce of rational thought began to spiral into the urgency of the moment. The girl clung to my arm, her eyes wide with desperation, as the screams from the woman penetrated the cold night air, slicing through the haze of fear. "Mom!" she cried again, voice cracking, as if the very fabric of her being was unraveling. That sound ignited something deep inside me, a fire fueled by compassion and fierce determination. "Stay close," I urged, gripping her wrist with steady pressure as if the mere tactile connection could anchor her to the present, to safety. Danny sprinted ahead, leading us toward the figure on the ground, struggling against the man who had taken her. Adrenaline surged through me as my instincts kicked into gear. I felt like a puppet, strings of courage and fear guiding each uncontrolled movement with no regard for caution. "Get away from her!" Danny shouted, his voice fiercely authoritative. The man turned sharply, a sneer etched across his face that made my skin crawl. In that fleeting second, a flash of recognition sparked in my mind, a glimpse of the face that haunted the edges of my thoughts. I had seen him before, a shadowy figure lurking at the warehouse during my shifts, always somewhere he didn't belong. Panic knotted in my stomach. He wasn't just a danger. He was part of something far greater, entangled in a web I didn't fully understand. "To run!" I shouted back at Danny, barely processing the command before fear took flight once more, propelling me forward. The sight of the girl's mother brought the moment into sharp focus. It wasn't just about us anymore. It was about saving a family. I charged forward, feeling the weight of the girl's fear vibrate through my violent pulse, urging me to push beyond my limits. The man's grip had slackened momentarily as Danny surged towards him, a fierce determination radiating from his posture. I was zeroing in, and I felt time stretch, each heartbeat a drum signaling our approach. The moment felt suspended as I lunged, adrenaline sharpening my senses. Just then, the man noticed me, and panic flickered across his face for a heartbeat, a crucial crack in his facade. "It was enough, let her go!" I roared, my voice surging from depths I never knew existed. The command hung in the air, heavy with conviction. With a sweeping motion, I closed the distance, ready to clash against whatever darkness this man embodied. He tightened his hold on the woman, who was gasping, mere inches from extorting her life. "Back off!" he snarled, eyes darting wildly between me and Danny, calculating, desperate. But in that charged moment, Danny and I locked eyes, a silent communication passing between us that transcended words. We were united in this fight, a tether formed not only by shared experience but by the sheer gravity of our resolve. The stakes were too high, and as I wrestled with my own fear, I recognized the wavering power of hope we had in numbers. With one deft movement, I shouted, "Now!" And we surged forward together like threads of a tapestry coming together. We pushed against him with everything we had. I grabbed his wrist in a vice grip, yanking it away from the woman while Danny swung a fist that connected solidly with the man's jaw. The distraction gave the mother the moment she needed to break free, and she staggered backward, breathless but unharmed, the horror of the ordeal etched onto her features. "Mom." The girl sobbed, rushing toward her mother, embracing her in a collapse of relief and desperation. The sanctity of the moment enveloped us, filled with a strange warmth that eased some of the pain, a fleeting peace amidst the storm. But the man was not defeated. He snarled, regaining composure and shaking off the drowsiness of our attack. "You think you can save her?" He spat, a sinister thrill twisting through his voice. "You don't know who you're dealing with." And as those words hung ominously in the air, I felt a shiver creep over my spine. I had entered a realm beyond our realish, a sinister truth cloaked by shadows that promised retaliation. What had started as a simple night turned into a confrontation with something far less tangible and far more dangerous. "Get in the car," Danny shouted, pulling us back toward the vehicle that felt like our only sanctuary. But the shadows crept closer, their fingers tracing our every movement as if waiting to snatch what little hope we had left. In the chaos, my mind raced with possibilities and fears. Just when we thought we'd found a flicker of hope, what if it was merely an illusion? What if this was part of a much larger game, one designed to dismantle us piece by piece? As I reached for the car handle, I felt a sharp pain in my side, as though the world had punched me with reality's brutal reminder. The girl looked up at me, terror flickering in her eyes, pleading silently for clarity, for assurance. I turned to see the man disappearing into the shadows, his silhouette swallowed whole as he stalked off into the night. And then suddenly, an echoing laugh filled the air, reverberating in my mind like a chilling omen, and just like that, I knew with morbid certainty the hunt wasn't over. The chase had only begun, and the stakes were higher than I had ever imagined, unleashing a maelstrom of darkness we would have to confront together. The engine hummed weakly as Danny fumbled with the keys, breaths heavy with the weight of the encounter. I glanced back, half expecting to see the man leap from the shadows, but he remained elusive, a ghost slipping through the cracks of our fleeting victory. The girl's gaze flickered between her mother and me, desperation etched across her face, demanding answers we didn't have. "Where's he going?" she whimpered, clutching her mother like a lifeline. "What does he mean? We don't know who we're dealing with. We need to get out of here," Danny said, finally jamming the key into the ignition. The engine sputtered, hesitated, and then roared to life, the sound cutting through the silence that clawed at our nerves. I pressed my palm against the window, grounding myself against the roller coaster of emotions that threatened to unmoor me entirely. "Why are they doing this?" the girl asked, voice trembling, tears shimmering in her eyes. In that moment, an avalanche of forgotten childhood memories engulfed me, innocence wrapped in safety, the simplest of worries, and the belief that adults could protect us from the worst of the world. But that belief felt like shattered glass now, and I had no answers. I merely offered a nod of understanding, a silent vow that I would try my best to keep them safe. As we pulled away, headlights illuminating the dark streets stretched out before us, my mind was a whirlpool of possibilities. The man's sinister laugh echoed in my ears. It was a taunt, a reminder of the looming danger. "We need to find a safe place," I said, words barely above a whisper, burdened by the weight of the girl's gaze. "Something with people, somewhere he can't reach us. What if he finds us?" The girl pressed, and I saw in her eyes the same fear that haunted my own. It was a fractal reflection of vulnerability, spiraling deeper into a labyrinth of dread. Danny took a deep breath, his focus shifting to the road ahead. "There's a diner a few blocks down that's open late. We can regroup there. Call for help or no?" The girl's voice pierced the air, raw with fear. "What if he knows there too? He could be waiting." Her words were heavy, yet they struck something within me, a nascent spark of courage igniting in the darkness. "You're right," I said, "but we're not alone. We can face this together." The drive felt interminable, the streets blurring into a line of dull colors and muted shapes. Every shadow felt like a lurking threat, and every sound sent jolts of anxiety coursing through me. I kept my hand on the girl's shoulder, silently promising her that we would weather this storm. As we rounded a corner, the neon sign of the diner flickered into view. The familiar glow offered a momentary reprieve, a sanctuary from the chaos outside. But as we pulled into the parking lot, I noticed an unsettling sight: a figure lurking beneath a street lamp, the contours of a body indistinct against the twilight. "Danny, wait!" I shouted, my heart racing as I pointed toward the figure. But it was too late, he had already parked and turned off the engine. We sat there, tense, hearts synchronized in a frantic rhythm, staring at the dark shape that took a step forward, revealing itself in the beams of light. It was another man, tall and imposing, yet unlike the one we had just faced. "Do you want to play?" he asked, voice dripping with a twisted amusement. My skin crawled as a knot of dread tightened in my stomach. With a shuddering breath, I spoke, desperate to reclaim the grip of the situation. "What do you want?" He grinned, too wide, too confident. "You've started something you can't finish. You meddled in matters beyond your understanding. And now, there will be consequences." Fear washed over me, choking the light of courage that had ignited just moments ago. I could see the girl trembling at my side, her mother rooted in place, shock splashing across her features. Before I could utter another word, he inclined his head toward the diner, a sardonic smirk playing at the edges of his lips. "Run along now. The game is just beginning," and with those haunting words echoing in my mind, I instinctively realized that the real terror lay not only with that man but with the movement of shadows around us, each contorted shape a reminder that safety was a fleeting illusion. "Get out!" I yelled, adrenaline coursing through me as I scrambled for the door. But as the girl's mother had already swung the door open, she hesitated, her eyes locked onto the figure. "Mom!" The girl screamed, panic erupting like a volcano, and just as I reached for them, desperately trying to pull them back inside, I felt something cold and merciless grip my wrist, a gesture not of kindness but of entrapment. The man from the shadows, the one who had spoken, was suddenly beside the car, an unyielding presence suffocating the air. He leaned down, nostrils flaring as he absorbed the fear radiating from us, his smile widening like a dark abyss. "Remember," he said, voice smooth as silk yet drenched in malice, "you're not the players. You're the pawns." And in that moment, as reality twisted and fragmented around us, I understood that our fragile web of hope was in jeopardy, a delicate thread being tugged brutally apart by unseen forces. The night was far from over, and our existence had just become an unending negotiation with fear. Just before I could pull away, the man whispered something else, a prophecy draped in darkness. "Time is running out." The weight of his words settled into my bones, and in the flicker of that moment, the true game revealed itself as more perilous than I had ever imagined. The diner loomed in front of us, a flickering beacon in the night. Its neon lights buzzed softly, but the warmth they radiated felt obscured by the cold dread sprawled within my chest. The man's words echoed in my mind, each syllable a clock ticking down to some unknown horror. I stole a glance at Danny and the girl. They had a look of sheer devastation on their faces, and that pang in my heart swelled into something monstrous. "Get inside," I urged, pushing the fear I felt down into the deep recesses of my soul, unwilling to show them just how fragile my resolve was right now. Somehow, I had to be the pillar for the moment. The girl's mother took a jagged breath as she shut the door, her fingers trembling on the handle, and together, we bolted toward the diner's entrance, desperation fueling our frantic retreat. The chilly air whipped against my face, but the gnawing sense of dread made it feel like a winter's chill creeping into my bones. Inside, the diner was unexpectedly quiet for a place that had been open late at night, the clinking dishes and soft hum of conversation replaced by an eerie stillness that blanketed the room. It felt like stepping into another world, one where shadows breathed and watched with hungry eyes. I scanned the empty booths, searching for signs of life, but all I found were remnants of forgotten meals and the flickering glow of the overhead lights. "Why's it so quiet?" the girl whispered, clutching her mother's hand tightly, her eyes darting around as if danger were hiding in each corner. "Maybe it's just late," I replied, hoping my attempt at normalcy could soothe her. "Let's just sit and think for a moment." We settled into a booth farthest from the windows, and I tried to keep the panic at bay. The distant sound of a clock ticking filled the silence, each tick a reminder that time was slipping away. Danny picked up a menacing fork and played with it nervously, while the girl hugged her mother, burying her face into the fabric of her sleeve. As I scanned the diner for the waitress, something weird caught my eye. A figure the very same murky outline from the parking lot had entered, moving slowly and deliberately toward our booth. I felt my heart lurch, the cold dread rushed back like a wave, dragging me into its depths. I opened my mouth to speak, to warn the others, but the words wouldn't come. "Can I take your order?" The woman standing there had a polite smile painted on her face, but it didn't reach her eyes. They were glassy and hollow, sending ice running through my veins. Her presence felt more like an omen than a service worker, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was in on something much darker than simple diner fare. "Just some coffee, please," I managed to stammer, and the others echoed my request almost mechanically. As she turned to leave, I leaned closer to the girl and her mother, urgency surging through me. "We need to think about our next move. We can't stay here long, but we need to figure out how to. Suddenly, the diner door swung open again, and my breath caught in my throat. The imposing figure from earlier stepped inside, blocking the entrance as if the world beyond the glass was merely a painted backdrop to his performance. He scanned the room, a predator unsure of which prey to pursue. Panic rippled through me, and I wanted to pull the others close, shield them from view, but the table felt like quicksand, each second sinking us deeper into this oppressive situation. He approached the counter, speaking to the waitress in low, conspiratorial tones. I could hear fragments of their conversation, something sinister wrapped in everyday language. "They're here, just keep them distracted." The goosebumps on my arms prickled with unease. What did that mean? "Shoo!" the girl hissed, her voice quaking as she pressed closer to her mother. I turned to face her, trying hard to maintain the fragile fortress of hope we were struggling to build. "It's going to be okay. Remember the plan." "Well, figure this out together," I whispered, though uncertainty dripped from my voice. It felt like hours had passed but was likely only minutes when the man from outside finally moved closer, his shadow swallowing the space. He leaned against the counter, brushing his fingers against it in a reckless show of casualness. "Good evening, folks," he said, his eyes searching the crowd for something he hoped to find. I dared to steal a glance at Danny, whose face was ashen, as if the weight of the world lay squarely on his young shoulders. Before I could catch myself, the waitress returned with our coffee, placing it gently in front of us. "Here you go. Anything else I can get for you?" Promise hung in the air, somehow sincere yet exuding an underlying danger. "No, thanks," I managed, my eyes darting to the door. That other man hadn't moved from his spot, and when our eyes locked, a chill ran through me. It dawned on me, we weren't just a group of frightened souls trying to find safety. We had stepped into a carefully orchestrated trap, a game in which we were the unwitting players. And as the clock ticked relentlessly on the wall above, a sudden declaration shot through the diner, cutting the dense tension like a knife: "Time is running out." An urgent dread surged just as an idea sparked within me, inviting a flicker of hope that fought against the engulfing despair. There had to be a way out of Fees, a way to turn the tide. But just as swiftly, the door swung open again, a gust of cool air sweeping into the diner as a haunting voice called from the outside, "Are you ready to play?" In that moment, I knew we were standing on the precipice of something monumental. The stakes were rising, and peril lay in wait just beyond the veil of reassurance. As the door creaked wider, the sound echoed like a thunderclap in the stillness of the diner. Shadows danced across the floor, creating an ominous backdrop against the stark fluorescence. I clenched my fists under the table, tension ricocheting through my body. Who's that?" the girl asked, her voice trembling, nearly swallowed by the silence. "Just stay close," I replied, though doubt gnawed my insides. It was a tentative assurance, fragile in the face of impending dread. The new arrival stepped in, brushing back rain-soaked hair, revealing a visage that flickered between familiarity and fear. "I'm here for them," she declared, pointing toward us. "Who are you?" I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. "My name is Ava," she said, stepping forward, her determination cutting through the thick air. "I have a plan. You must listen." The man at the counter turned sharply, eyes narrowing. "You shouldn't have come, Ava. They need to stay, stop threatening them." Ava shot back, her voice wavering but resolute. I could feel the mounting tension, a vortex of emotions swirling around us: fear, anger, desperation, but through it all, a flicker of hope ignited in my chest. Who was this brave stranger? Why had she walked into the lion's den? "Are you with them?" Danny asked, his wide eyes darting from me to Ava, absorbing every detail as if his very life depended on it. "No, not anymore," Ava replied hurriedly. "I was once, but I couldn't." She paused, swallowing hard. "They're using you. They know what's at stake." "What do you mean?" I pressed, my heart racing like an out-of-control engine. "They're coming for you, and they won't stop. This diner, it's a trap. I overheard them talking. If you stay here much longer." Her voice trailed off, the weight of her words almost unbearable. The man at the counter was shifting uneasily, stealing quick glances at Ava. In an instant, everything coalesced into a dangerous dance, a moment suspended between action and inertia. "I can help, but you have to trust me." Ava's gaze burned into mine, fierce and intense. "We have to get you out of here before it's too late." "But where would we go?" I struggled to maintain semblance, my mind racing with the implications of our situation anywhere but here. The only way to escape is through the back, she said, glancing over her shoulder. The man at the counter continued watching us with a predatory gleam in his eyes, lips curving into a knowing smile. The atmosphere thickened, pressing unyieldingly against my chest, each ragged breath a reminder of our tenuous hold on safety. Why would you help us? I asked, my trust teetering on the edge. Who was Ava in this dark web we had stumbled into? No time for questions, she said with urgency. If we don't move now, we won't get another chance. Danny's fingers squeezed the edge of the table as the girl whimpered, uncertainty clouding her features. I don't want to go. I'm scared. Listen to me. I leaned in, determination surging within me, igniting the feeble flame of hope. Ava is right. We can't stay here. If it gives us even the slightest chance, forget the chance, they'll catch us. Please. The girl cried. A squall of shouts erupted from the door as more figures began shuffling into many, their intentions curling like smoke in the chill of the night. I could see the concern etched on Danny's face, the dawning realization of danger sinking into his young bones. And now? Ava urged, her eyes fierce. Trust me or stay here and be caught. Your choice. The girl's mother finally took charge, gripping her daughter's arm gently but with unyielding strength. We have to go, sweetie. We have to trust. Then let's do it, I said, looking at Danny and then at Ava. Take us out the back. We shared a collective breath, each head nodding with the weight of the decision. As we slid out of the booth, I felt a palpable shift in the air, like 100 eyes watching, waiting for a pivotal moment to strike. Ava led us toward the diner's back door, glancing back to gauge our pursuers' movements. We need to be quick, she said, urgency dripping from her words. The door creaked slightly as we pushed through, the heaviness of its old wood an echo of countless stories left unspoken. Outside, darkness cloaked us, dictating our every move under the pale light of the street lamps, the flickers of illumination contrasting starkly against the high-stakes game unfolding behind us. Just as we took a tentative step into the alleyway, a thunderous crash reverberated from within the diner, the unmistakable sound of tables being thrown aside, chaos unleashed. Run! Ava yelled, and we sprinted, adrenaline propelling us forward like arrows released from taut strings. Each stride felt like fleeing into the unknown, with the weight of the past nipping at our heels, the cries of the diner fading against the screams of my heart. But just as we turned the corner, an unexpected figure appeared ahead, standing at the mouth of the alley, blotting out the last of the light. Not so fast, the figure said, smirking as if he were a jester in a cruel game, blood slicking the edges of his grin. I knew in that moment we had just stepped into a deeper abyss, one that might consume us whole. The figure ahead loomed menacingly, casting long shadows against the damp pavement. Recognition flickered like a faulty bulb, igniting the hardness in my chest as I took a step back. No, it can't be you, I whispered, the words escaping tremulously. Surprised to see me? The man crowed, brushing a lock of hair from his face casually. But there was nothing casual in his gaze, only an unsettling tension that felt like ice against my skin. Marcus, an old acquaintance from the underbelly of my past, had a reputation as spider weaving webs of deceit and manipulation. Why are you here? I asked, forcing the words through my tightened throat. I couldn't resist a little reunion, he purred, tilting his head with a mockery of friendliness. Looks like you've gotten yourself into some trouble. And with quite the motley crew, panic surged through me as Ava stepped protectively in front of Danny and the girl, her eyes narrowing in defiance. We're not interested in playing your games, Marcus, she spat, her voice reclaiming a courage that felt both fragile and fierce. Marcus raised his hands in mock surrender. Oh, I'm not here to play. I'm here to help for a price, of course. Help? I echoed, laughter mingling with the taste of bitterness on my tongue. Why would you help us? Let's just say your predicament piqued my interest. I know what's after you, and we both know it's not just a simple matter of running away. He stepped closer, his smirk sharpening, cutting through the darkness like a shard of glass. You can either stand here and let things spiral into chaos, or you can accept my offer. A shudder of uncertainty rippled through me. A part of me understood Marcus had always collected debts and favors, a king amongst the lords of shadows. But now, with everything at stake, I couldn't shake the feeling that accepting his help would be surrendering to a darker bargain. Stop it! The girl cried, her voice high-pitched with distress, clutching onto Danny, who mirrored her fear, eyes wide and searching. We don't want anything from you. Ava turned to me, her expression fierce yet pleading. This is a trick, we can't trust him. He'll only put us in more danger, and who else do we have? Marcus leaned in, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. I can see all your options running thin. Time is running out. You'll need to forge alliances, even with those you loathe like me. Why should we believe anything you say? I urged, feeling the weight of impending doom bearing down on our very souls. Because I'm the only bridge between you and survival. The darkness closing on you can be repelled, but only if you're willing to take the leap. His eyes glinted, revealing a calculated game lurking beneath the surface, and yet there was an eerie allure to his proposition. A soft touch brushed against my arm, pulling me from the downward spiral of my thoughts. The girl, just a child, looked up at me, her innocence a stark reminder of the stakes at play. We have to decide. Please, she whispered, vulnerability leaking into her voice as she searched my eyes for strength. The alley echoed with distant sirens, a chaotic orchestra accompanying our burgeoning dread. The implications of Marcus' presence wrapped around the fringes of my mind like a noose. What do you want in return? I asked, my heart heavy with the weight of that question. Just a little cooperation, Marcus replied casually, as though my hesitations were merely reflections of my indecision. You'll see, we can outsmart them together. After all, it's not about avoiding the darkness, it's about bending it to your will. Don't listen to him. Ava pressed, her hand clenching into a fist by her side. We can find another way. We have each other, that must count for something, but can it save us? I shot back, the desperation for a solution crackling in the air. All logic began to intertwine with the brewing chaos around us, the choice weighing heavily on my conscience. In that crucial moment, recognition sparked in the back of my mind, another flicker of hope from a place I had buried deep. The last time I'd seen Marcus was during a mad dash away from a criminal deal gone wrong. But what if he hadn't just been a loose end? What if he had access to the very creature that had haunted my past and had a stake in the unfolding calamity? The thought sent chills down my spine. And yet, standing trapped in this terrifying limbo, a part of me felt inexplicably pulled toward his offer, wondering if it was the chance we desperately needed. 5 seconds, Marcus said, drawing my attention back. Choose your fate, or I can assure you, fate will choose for you. And in that heartbeat, high above the din of chaos and fear creeping up my throat, I sensed the unseen agony of time slipping through our fingers. The decision twisted with insurmountable pressure, and before I could even comprehend the depth of the impending consequences, an echo of sirens closed in, a reminder that our moments were fleeting. I glanced at Ava, every nerve in my body alert to the choice looming ahead. The girl's grip tightened on Danny as he cowered slightly behind Ava, and I weighed the gravity of our predicament against the allure of a dangerous alliance. The fragile boundary between survival and desperation bent as the options spiraled around me. Then, with breath held tight in my chest, I found my voice amid the turmoil. Well, take your help, but know this: if you betray us, I swear I'll end you. Marcus grinned, the shadows enveloping him cloaked in an unsettling charm, as if he had just won the ultimate game. Then let's dance to your salvation, shall we? Just as he stepped aside, revealing a path deeper into the alley, a chilling chant echoed from the far side, coupled with guttural sounds that raised every hair on my body. They've found you, he muttered, an edge of glee in his voice. As the first blinding flash of lights broke through our haven of shadows, and figures began to emerge, I realized we had crossed a threshold into a world that promised not just escape, but hell itself. I found myself standing on the precipice of a storm, uncertain, raw, and gripping the fragile threads of hope that had led me through the shadows. Marcus had turned to lead us down a twisted alleyway, and despite the churning dread in the pit of my stomach, an undeniable urge pushed me forward. It was a gamble, one that could either salvage our lives or plunge us deeper into the darkness and endless cycle of despair. Keep close, I murmured to the girl and her mother, feeling the weight of their fear pressing against my chest. Danny brought up the rear, his presence reassuring yet fraught with anxiety. The sound of footsteps echoed behind us, chilling my bones. Whatever hunted us was relentless, fueled by the palpable scent of desperation that twisted through the alley. We wound deeper into the darkened recesses, led by Marcus's furtive movements, his laughter still tinging the air with an unsettling edge, cracking open a gateway of bewilderment in my heart. You're doing well, he mused, glancing over his shoulder, his eyes glinting like the edge of a knife. Just a little further, and then, we'll find safety. Safety? I echoed through clenched teeth. You can't promise safety, this was your choice. I regretted the words as soon as they left my mouth, but anger pulsed beneath my skin. Living a life caught in a web doesn't allow for many choices, but at that moment, I knew I was desperate to cling to whatever control I had left. Exactly, Marcus replied smoothly, unfazed. That's the beauty of this arrangement. You're not escaping the danger, you're simply redefining what it means to survive. The flickering light of a street lamp danced through the alley, illuminating quick shadows that darted across walls smeared with age and grime. The weight of my anxiety hung heavily in the air. Every step felt like marching deeper into a wound that could rupture at any moment, spilling its contents into a darkness far more potent than anticipated. We rounded a corner into a hidden courtyard, the distant flickers of neon signs illuminating a deserted bar on the other side. Once we reached the bar, "Well, blend in," Marcus said, his tone flaring with an unsettling confidence. I looked toward the bar, a sanctuary at the edge of the unknown. Just beyond its walls, I could feel the frenetic energy of the world pulsing, one that thrived on the brink of chaos. "Why are you doing this?" I questioned, more curious than accusatory. A question echoed in my mind, waiting for clarity. In this dancing tango of light and shadows, my determination to protect these two women remained unyielding. Marcus hesitated, casting his eyes toward the ground with an expression that hinted at something deeper beyond the surface charm. "Because I once fought that darkness, and I lost," he finally admitted, revealing a glimpse of something more human than I had anticipated. "Now I owe it to those brave enough to stand against it to help them navigate the shadows." His words hung in the air, heavy, like a shroud cloaked in misplaced hope. We took tentative steps into the bar as he pushed the door, its creaking protest slicing through the heavy atmosphere. Inside, a mixture of cigarette smoke and stale beer rolled out, inviting us into an unmistakable warmth, the kind that promised shelter from the storm brewing just outside. But even as relief washed over me in the dim lighting, a gnawing sense of dread settled deeper into my bones. We slipped into an isolated booth, Marcus easing into a seat across from us, the intimacy of the small space fraught with tension. "Now we wait," he proclaimed, leaning closer. "Remember, this is not just about survival, it's about reclaiming your power against the darkness." But power came at a price, and I couldn't shake the looming presence of uncertainty. Whispers echoed in the surrounding discussions, gilding the air with an oppressive energy, while the girl's mother clasped my hand, an anchor suspended between dread and desperate hope. "Why can't you just tell us everything? We need to know what's really happening," I pressed, the desperation for clarity spilling from my mouth like a torrent. "Because the game has just begun," Marcus said, his voice low and heavy, steeped in ominous promise. A cold shiver rolled down my spine, his words coiling inside me like a serpent. "Please," the girl whispered, clutching her mother's arm, fear coursing through her small frame as the tension among us thickened. "At some point, you'll have to confront your past," Marcus replied directly, meeting my gaze with unsettling depth. "And only then can you seize your future." "Past? What do you know about our past?" My voice echoed, sharper than intended. A darkness loomed behind me, something ancient and familiar creeping ever closer. His smile faded, swept away by a tide of seriousness. Enough to recognize how closely intertwined our motivations lie. "You want to protect them," and he leaned forward, eyes glinting with unsaid truths. "I want revenge." The weight of his revelation suffocated the air. But I began protesting, but he raised a hand, silencing me with a look. "Think about it. How can you protect them from a darkness that has already set its sights on you?" He leaned back slowly, allowing the words to permeate the air. "The hunt has begun, and we must stay one step ahead if we wish to survive." In that moment, the current of realization surged through meth roots of our entangled fates, spinning deeper into silence. Before I could respond, the atmosphere changed suddenly, a distant rumble spreading through the bar, electric tension pooling in the air as eyes turned toward the entrance. The door swung open, a cacophony of shouts crashing toward us like tide against rock. Figures spilling inside, causing panic to erupt like wildfire, a swarm of hunters searching for prey. "Move!" I hissed, grabbing the girl and her mother by the wrists, dragging them toward the back entrance just as Marcus leaped from his seat, eyes wild with challenge. "They can't find you." he shouted, adrenaline surging through his voice like a rallying cry. Get them out. I sprinted forward, pulling them into a narrow hallway leading to the back exit, adrenaline surging through me. Stay close. Don't let go. As we emerged into the darkness, the sense of foreboding cold wrapped around us like a blanket of knotted shadows. We were now running blind, dodging threats eagerly awaiting our unveiling. In the midst of it all, I felt a tie strengthening between us. The girl and her mother were not just victims. They were my comrades in this fight against an undefined darkness, joined by resilience and the innate urge for survival. Then, like clockwork, the darkness revealed itself, a deceptive calm creaking back to life as we charged toward the expansive open space before us. And with one step into the unknown, I felt it crash into me, understanding that coursed through my veins, a realization that wove itself through every fiber of my being. It was time to confront not just the darkness that chased us, but the shadows lurking within ourselves. Together, we'll face whatever awaits. My voice felt like a beacon of hope woven amidst the storm. We surged forward into the night, hope, fear, and courage guiding our every step. No matter where this led, I promised myself I wouldn't let fear silence me. With newfound resolve, I whispered words I hoped transcended the gravity of our reality. We can hold on to each other, even when the world tries to tear us apart. The shadows loomed, but together, I believed we could carve away whatever lay ahead, shaping our fates, intertwining our destinies, the very essence of what it meant to fight against the darkness. And even when I feared all was lost, I knew, in some unspoken way, we would find our way back to the heart of light that had sparked our struggle to begin with. As darkness curled like smoke around us, the last line of this tale stitched together our shared purpose in a haunting reminder: we will not surrender to the shadows, we will redefine our light.